exciting topic of the day, but hopefully we'll help you guys get some money. I feel like you guys remember that guy with the question mark jacket from the 90s? Probably not a lot of you. I'm dating myself here. It's like, get government money! We're kind of like that a little bit here. Sort of a Riddler-esque figure. So basically, there's going to be a couple different parts to our little panel today. I'm going to give a PowerPoint presentation with my lovely wife and goddess here, Sophia. I guess introductions. I'm Jeff Cronenfeld. I'm a local writer, journalist, and creator. I write comics, screenplays, and fiction, and I hit microphones sometimes. Last year I got an R&D development grant from the Arizona Commission on the Arts, and those are really cool ones. Those are for $5,000, up to $5,000. They do those every year. The Arizona Commission on the Arts has also littler grants that you can do, and often it's best to start with like smaller local grants. Most cities art programs have grants. Phoenix Art and Culture does a bunch, and there's a bunch of resources on here for places to find them. And honestly, you can just Google too. But this is Sophia.
And yeah, we actually have fancy slides as well coming up here. I was a former English teacher, so if you felt me like warming the temperature of the room, that's where that came from. I am a founding editor of Little Somethings Press. We publish microfiction, micromemoir, and micropoetry, all in handmade books.
Sure.
And we received a City of Tempe Community Arts Grant that not only offset some of the printing costs, but also allowed us to pay contributors and editors as well for their hard work. I've also been a resident artist for the Mesa Arts Center. And so we're just really excited to talk about grants that are out there and hear some of your guys' ideas as well. So thank you again for coming today. And
We'll introduce Russ as a partner of mine. He worked on my graphic novel with me, Dog Years. He couldn't make it today. He got attacked by a pack of chihuahuas out on the west side, but he's recovering down at booth 1016 if you want to see him and wish him well. Russ has done a lot of stuff. He actually just got back from a fellowship where he went and worked with the comic artist Dean Haspel in Florida for a month. And so fellowships are another kind of opportunity. It's the same process as applying for grants, but a lot of those is you go visit. It's a lot like an artist residency. So those are all great different opportunities, and all the stuff for writing grants, the same for writing all of those. And then the next one, if we can, is Ricardo Jimenez right here.
Ricardo is awesome. He is the tech savior of the day. And he's also the founder and creative director of RJ Animation, and of course an instructor at GCU, Grand Canyon University. He runs the, remind me what it's called, the animation
RJ Animation
meetup.
Oh yeah, the Phoenix Animation meetups every month, which is a great resource. They bring in animators and different storytellers, and they really, it's an amazing resource. There's so much talent in those rooms. They do them in person and video. Just some amazing people come there, and I mean, I've seen the back-end physics for games with like, it looks like the Matrix or something, and just a ton of great resources.
We have a panel after this too.
Woo!
Yeah, and they have a panel today at 1:30, right?
Yeah, in room 1226A.
1226A, and we'll mention that at the end. You guys can come up and ask about that, but a great resource too. And Ricardo's an instructor and does a ton of awesome stuff. Thank you. So now we're going to get into the meat of this thing. So this is the basic overview. Is like, what are the different funding sources? This is probably pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, there's crowdsourcing, fundraising. That is, I've done that for some of my projects. For an animated project I made with Ricardo, a teaser trailer for a TV show that we made, My Lizard Alien Dad. And saving up yourself, honestly, like doing grants is a lot of work. So once you've gone through the rigmarole of filling them out a few times, you might just want to save up your own money and spend it if you really believe in your project. And then of course grants, which we're here to talk about today.
And so we're actually going to show you examples of comics that have been funded by grants, so I'm so happy there are comic writers in the audience. We have the Creator for Creators grants, which funded Outcasts of Jupiter, We have the Zurich Foundation grants, which funded Coexisting, Action Philosophers, Deadpan #2, the Bronte's Infernal Angria, and then we also have, of course, the Arizona Commission on the Arts, which funded dog years, which we can talk about a little bit later here.
And we're going to talk about each of these now a little bit. So Outcasts of Jupiter is about 4 outcasts exploring the universe, getting unusual jobs. They have like special powers. And this was a grant-funded comic, and you can see they did some really beautiful art on here. And
this next one, which I need to pick up, is I Am Young by M. Dean. And it's a story about 2 teenagers who meet and fall in love after a 1964 Beatles concert in Scotland.
then we got Action Philosophers. I like reading philosophy, and this was a really cool book. There's a whole series of these with different expounding philosophical ideas through the comic medium. Very boring stuff, I love it. So.
But accessible.
And of course, Dog Years, which is a comedic look into the petable underbelly of American crime, sort of an exploration of mass incarceration in the US, inspired by Art Spiegelman's Mouse. And we just kind of wanted to show that there's all kinds of different comics that get funded. So, there's ones that are more like fun, lighter concepts, there's heavier ones, there's more academic ones, and it's really kind of how you talk about the comic and how you sell it in the grant that matters. So don't feel like your idea can't be a grant-funded one if it's not some hoity-toity thing. You can always ask for the money. So, yeah.
Okay, so what exactly is a grant? Well, it's a sum of money offered to an individual or organization to fund a particular purpose. And every single grant organization is going to have a different mission and a different call. And grants include payments that you do not have to pay back, right? So it's free money after you put all the work into that application.
So how to find grants? So obviously Googling them is a great way to start. And grant opportunities, but another really important thing to do is to sign up for newsletters with grant-giving bodies. A lot of the organizations that give grants are actually really nice. They're really receptive if you email them or reach out to them. The newsletters will kind of give you the heads up, and you really want to prepare these things in advance. Like rushing to finish them at the last minute is very stressful, so I really recommend trying to get everything ahead, done in advance. And once you've done the grant proposal one place, there's usually nothing to prohibit you from using some of that material, recycling it into other grants, kind of like a snowball going downhill. It gets easier every time you do it, and you can always kind of rehab earlier material. Also see what other people have given out grants before, and anyways, we'll move on.
And then keep that running list of grants that you've applied for and grants that you hope to apply for later. So this, I highly recommend if you want to take a picture of this slide, please go ahead and do so.
And if you guys email me, I'll send you a copy of this too. So I got cards, and I'll literally send you a copy of this proposal too. So
we've got local, which includes Arizona Commission on the Arts, which again funded Dog Years. We have the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. Both of these two fund artist projects specifically. AZ Humanities, which funds organization, like art organization and projects therein. We have national grant-giving bodies, which include of course, the National Endowment for the Arts, and we have PEN America. There are comic-specific grant opportunities, which include Creators for Comics, Make More Comics, Mice Mini Grants to independent creators, and then comic-specific fellowships, which I believe is the one Justin,
yeah.
Right? The ACA Artist in Residence program. So there's tons of opportunities out there.
And that's a really great program. That'll send you somewhere for a month with an established comic artist, and it's kind of like, I don't know, like going to the like Jedi temple of comic making, and you get to I don't know, it's really cool. You get a little cabin, and then you get to work with a bunch of other artists, and it's really awesome. And there's tons of other opportunities than these. These are just the tip of the bucket. Almost every city in the Phoenix area offers its own grants, from Glendale to Tempe and Mesa.
City of Tempe is open now. Arizona Commission on the Arts is also open right now for specific project-based grants.
And again, feel free to email me. I'll shoot you a copy of this. Also, if you have questions about the grant proposal process, feel free to ask me. But also remember the grant giving bodies often run little workshops or little Zoom lessons where they'll teach you how to do the grants. And just take that help. I really it's so helpful.
Give the grant.
The Arizona Commission on the Arts does this whole series of them that were super helpful. Yeah. And so now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, how to apply for grants. Is this your pen?
Yes.
Okay.
So as Jeff mentioned, most grants come with instructions. You gotta read them. First thing you wanna do is make sure that you are in fact eligible for the grants. As I have mentioned previously, there are project-based grants and there are collective-based grants. So make sure before you start writing that you really dig into what the grant is trying to do. And as Jeff mentioned, there are informational sessions. Don't be scared, hop into that Zoom call. It can be super, super helpful. Also consider collaborating with other creators and artists. The more community base you have in your project, the more appealing it is to these grant giving organizations. Also, if you are tied into the community, that's an amazing resource. You can reach out as long as you ask nicely, and they might give you advice, right? What works for them. And if you end up going to the instructional sessions, you might be able to get an email for people who literally work on that grant, and they can then help you and further break down the application process. But of course, be nice.
And you don't want to ask them, you can't be trying to lobby them for your grant proposal. You can ask them for help and instructions on that. And did you have a question?
Yeah, so when it comes to consider collaborating when applying for a grant, I'm guessing those collaborators have to be local as well, or?
Not necessarily. It all depends on the specific conditions of the grant. So each grant will kind of have its own rules. And a lot of them, even if you're local, the primary person applying, that'll be okay. So don't, that's the kind of thing you can ask them by email or check in, the instructions are usually pretty long. We're actually gonna go through my proposal with the R&D development grant at the end of this, and I'll show you the stage 1 of the process and my answers, and that'll maybe help demystify some of that too.
Yeah, asking questions won't disqualify you.
Yeah, so we're getting into that now. So this is the R&D research and development grant. It's a multi-stage process. There are actually 4 stages. I'm just going to take you through stage 1. It seems like a lot of work, but I actually really like the multi-stage process because it means you only do part of the work, and if you advance to the next round, then you do more work, but it kind of saves you time rather than assembling an entire proposal initially. I think these are pretty well organized. So first it tells you what is the research and development grant. Then it tells you who's it for, which helps you know if it applies. So this one is for artists in any discipline who live and work in Arizona. But if you're the primary person working on it, you could still maybe interface with people in other places, right? A lot of it's kind of how you describe it. So you're always allowed to kind of interface with other people. But this is for exploring a new technique, experimentation with new materials or technologies, the creation of new work, and the development of new strategies for engaging community practice, basically everything. So there's a lot of options for that. And now this grant I don't think is currently open, but there's a smaller version of it that is open with the Arizona Commission on the Arts, and that's a great grant to start. It's actually good to start with some of the smaller grants and work your way up, because all the material you'll build, you'll be able to recycle, and just kind of, it's a good process. So this is explaining the specifics of the stage 1 proposal. The first is going to be the narrative details, and every grant is going to have slightly different instructions, but they're all going to have somewhat similar. They're all pretty much going to have a narrative description at some point. You're all lucky if you're writers and creators that you can kind of tackle stuff like that, but even for us, it can be difficult to describe your own work. I mean, it's almost like writing a cover letter or something where it's some of the hardest writing to do. And you really do need to sell yourself. So this was awesome because they really break it down. And one of the big pieces of advice is to use the questions as the outline for your answer. Because it's a lot like a job application where they're going to be looking for specific stuff. So you want to make it very clear what information corresponds to what. And a good approach is to just like write little answers for each of the subcomponents and then combine them and always keep editing them. But you know, your first draft does not have to be the finished product. And often trying to make it perfect initially can make it hard to finish. So they break it. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, when they evaluate your answer, they're actually using a rubric. So if I have any teachers out there, make sure you are following, you know, just like you would assign in a class, question by question, because the panel who's reviewing those applications has specific point structures for each section.
And so then they break this down, not quite yet, Ricardo, thank you, into this question's broken down into 6 sub-questions. And that's basically how I started answering it. I just tried to answer each one of them and then combined them. For this one, you can actually even do a video essay introduction where you don't even have to write it. You can do a video, though I would recommend probably writing out what you want to say before you do it. A lot of flexibility here. Next one. So then the second, so these are additional parts of the stage 1 application process. There's going to be work samples. Often work samples I think are sort of the hardest part to have, but luckily as artists we already have a lot of that stuff, and it's really good to keep that organized, to kind of have your portfolio. And a cool thing about putting the grants together is a lot of this material is going to be useful for non-grant applications. If you're building your website, you know, you're going to want a narrative, propose something to describe your work. You're going to want, you know, to have a portfolio of your work up on a website or other things, or applications for art schools or other stuff. So I really do believe going through the grant process is beneficial for artists on many levels. Even if you don't get the grant, you're going to learn stuff, you're going to build materials you'll be able to use, and it kind of helps focus you as a creator too. So yeah, and that's just explaining the work sample stuff, and then next one, excellent. So this was explaining, they actually explain how they evaluate and review. I really think the Arizona Commission on the Arts is a great one to start with, because they also have those great little workshops. Kesha Bruce was at least running it last year, and she's super nice lady, would answer all my questions, and did these amazing workshops on Zoom where she explained everything, and they bring in past grant winners to talk about their proposals, and it's a really educational process. That was just a dupe, I guess. Okay, so then this is my answer to question 1. I guess I could just read it to y'all. It's kind of long, but describe the work you propose to do with grant funds. What are your specific proposed activities? I'll read the first answer to question 1. I won't bore you with all of them, but just to kind of give you an idea. What Mouse did for the Holocaust and Persepolis did for the Iranian Revolution, my graphic novel Dog Years will do for mass incarceration in the US. You really have to sell yourself. It's kind of awkward because obviously to compare myself to those amazing artists seems pretty chintzy, but if you don't sell yourself, like a lot of artists, you know, they want to be really humble and not do that. But when you're writing a grant proposal, that's the time to brag. It's like a job application. You sell yourself, and it's can be almost aspirational too. So don't be afraid to do that. Inspired by how those writers use personal and familial experiences to humanize complex issues, I will draw from my time as a former drug dealer whose life was transformed by a fiction workshop in prison. That's a whole other story. And you can buy it in Dog Years down at Tableton 16. Always be selling. I will also use my skills as a successful freelance journalist to integrate accurate and compelling facts about the discriminatory, corrupt, and cruel nature of the U.S. penal system. And I kind of go on to more stuff. You know, you want to have stuff that both, you really want to look what they want, and you want to go to these different grant organizations, see what their mission statement is, right? And you want to try to appeal to their mission statement. Why are they giving this grant? What are the kind of things they want to promote? And you want to tailor your grant to that, or even tailor your proposal. As creators, you probably have lots of different projects, and maybe there's one project you really want to work on, but there's another one that you think fits that grant proposal better, and so it might be better to do that one that best fits that call, or to even kind of adjust your proposal to match it. I know that can be difficult sometimes if you have a really strong vision there, but getting the grant itself can be so catalytic for a creative career, so it really is good to try to tailor them. And I'll share with, again, I can email y'all all this so you can read through it. I don't know if it makes sense for me to read the whole thing to you, but I don't know, so I was just trying to reverse engineer it almost, right, from what they give you. And then you look at their, like, what are the things they deal with, and then you try to build that into the proposal and into the project itself. The next was tell us about your community of practice. Is it your artistic discipline, audience, field of study, place space, geography? This was actually a really difficult question. This was the hardest question for me because I had no idea what a community of practice was. I was like, and that's where doing that workshops with them was really helpful. And so then I just but basically what it ended up meaning was just who are the people you engage with, who are the people you work with, how are you engaged in your community. I work with a number of organizations, Iron City Magazine, which is a local journal printing works and other creative works by people who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. A bunch of other projects, and you kind of just want to mention all of those, who you think will be a potential audience. And again, these are all questions that will help you as an artist for many other parts of your career when you're trying to like pitch something in the commercial market. They're going to want to know your audience, so all that stuff. It's very useful every stage. Then we have, this was how does your work propose, reflect, or respond to your community of practice? Again, that was another complicated question because it almost seemed to overlap with the second one. And there will be a little overlap in some of these answers, and that's okay. Once you get it all laid out, you'll kind of see, like I like to overwrite these and then cut down, right? Because there'll be word limits often. So it's good to write long and then edit short. That's a really good piece of advice for doing the grant proposals. The next was how does this proposal relate to the work you currently do? So that was kind of taking that portfolio that you created and tying it together. A lot of times there's a question within the question. The question within this question is, can you implement this project, sort of? Like, do you have some experience in doing it? And you may not think you know, even if you're getting started out, you may have doubts about that, but you can really go, like, all the work you've done, even if it hasn't been published, even if it's sketching in a journal, writing in a journal, doing that stuff, talk about that. I mean, if you've been doing it since you were a kid, talk about that. That's something that, you know, humanize yourself in the proposal and talk about why it's something that's so passionate you would really consider doing this, and that will connect with the people reading it. That's the kind of stuff they love. These are people who like to help creatives try to come up. So lean into your story there. And it can be difficult to write it, but it feels kind of cathartic to get it out too. Thank you so much, Ricardo. If you have collaborators, who are they and how do you contribute to your proposed work? So this was me talking about Russ. I was lucky because Russ is like amazing and does everything. And so I had plenty of material for that. And it's kind of fun to you know, give your friends the glow up treatment. So, and then how would receiving this grant deepen your artistic practice? And you can even see, like, I literally broke these down and like put the questions in to make it really clear what I was answering. Some people actually made it one big paragraph, and you can do that, but I like to make it very clear to the people reading the proposal. And there's no right or wrong answer to that, but for me it was just the simplest way to propose it. And so this is the importance of the process. Is that me? Oh, that's me, okay. Thank you, thank you. So I was kind of stressing this. Answering the questions can be difficult. It's really hard sometimes to summarize what a work's about, but the process of trying to iterate that, especially at the beginning of the process, is so valuable. In TV, you have to be able to sum up your projects in a log line, which is ideally a single sentence description of it. And at first it feels impossible, but finding that single sentence, finding that log line, it really can help you focus work. So then if you have to decide what stuff to cut, what makes it in, you can go back to that central and does it radiate that theme? Does it express that? And if it doesn't, it can be stuff you cut. We'll go a little long, I think, because the grant show thing is a little tighter. Answering the grant questions helps you focus and hone your art. I mean, I really do think going through the grant process will make you a better artist. And so you can't always focus on the outcome. You gotta focus on the process. That's what I've noticed as a journalist interviewing lots of amazing artists. They're all process oriented. And we all wanna get, be successful and get all that, but in a way, that success is almost illusory. Like so many artists that even at the professional level are just hustling every day. And it has to be something you love doing, and you always want to try to stay connected to the love of doing the art itself. And then to sell a project commercially, you're gonna need all this stuff anyways. You're to make a pitch deck. I love talking pitch decks, so we can always talk pitch decks after that. These are gonna be the skills that help you as an artist and really in all the endeavors of your life going forward.
And Jeff touched on this too. Basically, in your grant, you are selling yourself, right? What is your artistic narrative? So make sure when you are talking in your grant applications about your work, that like Jeff said, you're mentioning your passion behind the work, right? You are mentioning how this art is a part of you and how you are a part of that project. And please, please, please don't be afraid to list all your accomplishments, no matter how small. Those small accomplishments, they build up. And the best way to be able to start doing that is to document your work. Does anyone have like creative accounts? You show your process, you show your works in progress. Awesome, that is like grant gold, I tell you what. And then don't be afraid to also do free stuff. Obviously we like getting paid for the creative work. But the more stuff you can put on your CV, the better you look for grant applications. And speaking of free stuff and a way of marketing, you can flyer as well. So Jeff was actually the flyering king. If any of you guys were at First Friday and you saw a lizard alien walking around, that was Jeff. If you saw a convict with dog ears, that was also Jeff. If you saw someone marching behind him, kind of begrudgingly filming the whole thing, that was me. But yeah, flyering's a great way. So please, please, please don't be afraid to sell yourself, whether that's through social media or through that grant application.
Or to force free labor out of your loved ones too. It's awesome. And don't give up. It's really, creating can be a really lonely process. It can be really hard. You can kind of be like doubting, what am I doing with my life, trying to write this story about lizard aliens? Am I losing my mind? But you gotta, have faith and stick with it. All the wacky ideas that we love, that was an idea in somebody's head, I'm sure the first time he pitched Chainsaw Man was pitched, he got a little sideways glances, but that's like, look at that, it's huge now. So it all starts there, you gotta stick with it. Even if you don't get the grant, the work you do to get the grant is gonna help you with future grants, it's gonna help you hone your practice, it's gonna help you focus your attention, and this is maybe the most important thing. You gotta believe in yourself before you expect anyone else to believe in you. It's one of the most important things. Like, you have to kind of envision success and what that success is gonna look like before you can achieve it, right? And you build that as a goal, and maybe it takes a couple months, maybe it takes years, but if you stick with it and you do the work, you're gonna progress. And really like to stress that all. And thanks for listening to the spiel here. So now we're gonna get to the fun part, the grant show. So basically it's gonna be kind of like a game show, but it's really like a little workshop activity. I was just trying to make it not feel like school. But we're gonna divide. School is cool though. Dopes for dopes. But grant. So we're gonna basically split you up into teams. We're gonna give you topics that you're gonna pick out of my D-headed lizard, and then you guys are gonna get together and try to make real quick pitches. You're gonna vote for someone or a group of people from your group to pitch it, and then Ricardo, Sophia, and I are gonna vote on it, and you will get bragging rights if you win. So if we could go to the next one, we're almost done with these. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for your generosity here doing this.
Okay, so we kind of mentioned this. Your team's going to choose a prompt. Okay, they're silly. It's like Chewbacca, lizard aliens, all that sort of a thing. And you're going to figure out how you can pitch a project that goes along with the mission statement that you will see in this next slide here. And ultimately, you are going to share the project with us, and we're not going to boo you. It's an awesome, friendly space. And this is again just to practice kind of breaking down those questions. So, should we look at those questions?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so this is our imaginary foundation. It's the Golden Rule Foundation. We just made it up. Our mission is to create a world where every person has the opportunity to live a healthy, productive life. So that'll be something you want to keep in mind when you're designing your proposals. Like, how do your, how can you create a proposal that embodies that and kind of addresses those? And remember the most important rule of grant writing: the people who write the grants have all the power, so you got to kind of do what they say. So, the ones with the gold make the rules. And then these are going to be the questions for your grant proposals. What is your proposed project? What is the social merit or benefit of your project? How will you implement your project if funded? This is kind of the most miniature version of a grant proposal we could come up with. Almost every grant proposal is going to have some form of these questions. And we just know it's really scary to start, so we thought it'd be fun to do a little exercise version of it together in a casual setting to make it a little less intimidating when you're staring at the blank screen paralysis. So I think that's...
We should maybe leave those up?
Yeah, we'll leave those up for you. And so then Ricardo, we're going to split you guys up into 3 groups. We're going to have you pick ideas out, and then one of us is going to help facilitate each group. I guess I'll do some counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yes.
So let's do groups of 4 or 5 if people just want to gather with folks close.
Boom, boom, boom. Maybe.
And then we got pens and papers.
All right.
And we do have these written down too. And okay, I think these are going to be a need. Awesome. Okay. Well.
Related to dogs that
Excellent. Look at that. Look at that. There we go. I'm going to help you back.
What's your email address?
Actually, I got cards, actually. Anytime. I'll even look at grant proposals if you want me to. Just feel free to reach out to me. Yeah. Anything you want. This is Amy, starting at you decide that. Anything that you can think of that fit it, I mean, that's really up to you. You just want to. There you go. There you go.
Jose.
Oh, there you go.
Do you guys have a student writers? Oh, right. All right. Did you guys come up with that?
So it's like, it could be some.
It's almost like
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
People might want to, so they can have like a place where they can play with dogs. Yeah.
Is that better?
But also make it like a social project. Yeah. So you need, so implementation and budget wise, you need real estate. You need rent or own a space.
So how could you create a
You'll need staff. You'll need licensure.
boy, it should be.
If you're handling animals.
Yeah, you definitely need.
I guess it's not